Hello once again, watchers of good movies. My name is Nick Pell and this is my review of Frozen 2. Now if you are not aware, I am a big fan of the original Frozen film. It was probably, I think it was one of my top favorite films of the year that it came out, and it's probably one of my most rewatched films that I currently own of the many that are back here. And it's just one that I've always loved. I've watched it many times. And so I was obviously very excited for a sequel to see where they're going to take this story, how they're going to evolve these characters that I've come to know and love. And so let's talk about it. Now the main premise for this film is that it seems to take place about a year, I think, roughly, since the events of the first film, if not longer, because all the characters just have this more mature look to them, which I kind of like because they even kind of do like a breaking the fourth wall moment, I think with Olaf, really early on in the film, where they kind of just hint at the idea that all of our characters are getting older, and like he looks at the camera and says, "Oh, and you're getting older too," like talking to some kids that are on screen, but also just kind of referencing to the audience, like kids who watched this film back in 2013 when it originally came out. They're now 6 years older, so you have that idea as well. But early on in the film, Elsa is starting to hear this voice, or this singing voice, which seems to be calling out to her, and her being this inquisitive person, and still feeling kind of like she's not necessarily where she's supposed to be in the world or in life. She decides to seek out this voice. Mysterious things dealing with the four elements of the world start to affect Arendelle. So her, Anna, Kristoff, Sven, and Olaf, they all decide to go off into this mysterious forest to find this voice, and they discover this whole civilization. It's a whole plot thing. And as I said, the characters are older in this film, but they also have this more mature personality to them. Anna is still a goofball, but she still has this more mature side. Like you can tell that she's just aged more and she's experienced more things since the end of the original Frozen film, which I appreciate that stuff. It shows character growth, and it shows that this isn't just like taking place a week after the events of the first film. There has been time. These characters have changed. I just really like that. The film is also still really dark. Well, not very dark, but it has its dark moments. One of the things which I really liked about the first one is how dark it got with Elsa's character, in regards to how close she came to being just this almost a villain character, with her almost killing some guards. This film doesn't go quite to that extent, but it does still have its dark moments, especially for a Disney kids film, I think, in a different way. And I really liked what they did with those elements, with particular characters, and how they had songs illustrating those and kind of enhancing those scenes. The songs are great, I think. There's a couple which I could do without, but for the most part they're all done really well. All of our main characters have their own solo number. I think Elsa has two of them essentially, and they all do a really good job. I really enjoyed the music. I'm probably going to be listening to it over the next week. And despite its dark moments, the film is also still funny and lighthearted at times. It still had moments where I was laughing out loud. There were still kids in the theater who were laughing throughout the course of the film, which I think is a good thing, that it still has these funny moments, and it even has like callbacks to the original Frozen film, and just kind of makes fun of itself from time to time, and I appreciate that type of stuff. The expansion of the world of Frozen is also something kind of interesting to see take place on screen, because at least in the first film, it was very much self-contained to Arendelle. We knew that there was like life outside of Arendelle, but that was what the film focused on. And so the idea that there's this whole other civilization and obviously other kingdoms throughout the world, it makes it nice to see that stuff and see how different Arendelle is from those other worlds or civilizations, and how the history of Arendelle has affected those places and vice versa. The animation, again, looks fantastic. I think it's obviously enhanced over the last 6 years, so all the characters look awesome on screen. I really had no issues with that, and again, that kind of comes along with the more mature look that all these characters have as time has just made them look older. And then the ending I thought was very satisfying, because it works as kind of like a way to close these two films off satisfyingly, but it also kind of does leave something open for a third film potentially. I have no idea if they'll do a third film, but if they do decide to do one in like another 6 years, I guess, there is a potential for that if they wanted to do something. I have my ideas. I probably won't discuss them here. I did have a couple issues though. They're just kind of minor things. It does start off kind of slow. Like it takes about 10 to 15 minutes for the plot to really start to go and start to develop, because a lot of it's just kind of showing us where our characters are currently within the course of the film. And so for myself, and also mainly for like young kids in the theater, this is where they're still kind of just like not paying that close of attention, because there again wasn't a whole lot that was actually happening plot wise, just kind of again re-immersing ourselves into this world. So I don't know, it could have picked up a little bit faster for me. There's also just some silly moments. Again, it's a kids film, so it's to be expected, but just in contrast to the more dark and mature elements that are shown throughout this film, it did kind of seem kind of out of place at times, where like some serious moment is happening and then Olaf kind of just throws in a random joke out of nowhere. It felt a little bit off at times. It's really hard to compare this film to the original Frozen, I think, because this film feels so different at its core than the original Frozen did, because the original Frozen was very much about Elsa still hiding her powers and being scared of them, what they could contain, and then her eventually accepting them and learning to be accepted by others and embracing her sisterly love for Anna, and that saving her in the day. And this one, that stuff is already done and established, and so this one is more about Elsa just kind of trying to find her place in the world, but also focusing a lot on the history of Arendelle and their parents, because the roles that Elsa and Anna's parents had in regards to this other civilization that they come across in the forest is pretty important, I think. And it doesn't really have a villain in the second film. Not really like Hans was the main villain of the first film. It doesn't really have a Hans in this film. It just feels like they're trying to find something that they have to do, at least in Elsa's case, find this voice and try to figure out this truth which must be found or something like that. And then save the day. There's not really a lot, there's not really like a huge conflict necessarily. They're just trying to find a way to save this forest. And so they just feel like two very different films in that aspect. And so it's hard to compare them for me. I think that in general, I think at least after one viewing of the second one, I still like the first one a little bit more, just because again, I'm so used to it, and it just has a certain feeling for me that it's hard to like the second one a little bit more, just because of how different it is. But I would be not surprised at all if, like, after I watched the second one, a lot of times could pick up on like the foreshadowing, because there's a lot of foreshadowing in this film, at least in the beginning, I thought. And just watch multiple times, pick up on cues and like hidden meanings and all that type of stuff. This could end up being my favorite of the two, just because of how dark it is, and I always enjoy like dark animations. I think those are really cool and bring a more mature element to like traditional kids entertainment. And then just also seeing just where the film ends up putting a lot of these characters in these difficult situations. Anna in particular, I'm not going to say what or how or anything, but her and Elsa at least have the two most interesting character arcs, I think. Anna almost a little bit more than Elsa. And yeah, I liked the movie. That's just kind of my overall thoughts on it, aside from just the kind of key points that I wanted to hit on earlier. But yeah, I might do a spoiler review of this. I might go watch it again over the weekend or something, and then like dive into this film a little bit more. Just because, again, it's one of my favorite films, at least the first one was, and I would not be shocked if Frozen 2 ends up on my top 10 of the year. Just saying. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Frozen 2. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Did you like it as much as I did? Did you hate it more than I did? Let me know, what is your favorite between the two? Do you like the original Frozen from 2013, or do you like Frozen 2? What's your favorite? Why not? Let me know. Like, favorite, comment, and subscribe once again if you so choose. I appreciate it immensely. And as always, my people, my name is Nick Pell. And once again, keep on watching.